Hello, I'm Doug Keck, and welcome to a special bookmark where we're joined from New York. Mother Claire Mathias, CFR, is the author. Her new books, Little Convent in the Big City. The first book focuses on the unsolvable problem. The second book, Light in You. It's wonderful to see you again, Mother, here on EWTN, and everybody recognizes, obviously, the CFRs and the great connection to EWTN and Mother Angelica over the years with the great Father Benedict Groeschel and the Father Andrew Apostoli, who was involved in actually the founding of the sisters, right?
That's right, yeah. It's great to be with you, Doug. Thanks so much. And yes, EWTN was so dear to both Father Benedict and Father Andrew. And Father Andrew is the founder of the CFR Sisters, our community. So yes, he is a close connection that we have between us.
Right, right. Now, we spoke back about 5 years ago or so. You had talking about Discerning Religious Life, a program. Now, these are children's books. Are they still focused on the idea of discerning a religious life, or what were these targeted to?
Yeah, yes. Well, they are in a way. You know, the realization strikes us sisters frequently every time we go into a school, really, that more and more as the years go by, our Catholic kids are not exposed to religious sisters. And I'll often start, the first question will be, how many of you have ever seen a sister before? Mm-hmm. And very often, no hands go up. We're the first time, maybe one, maybe two. So it's less and less exposure to religious life. So the idea of this series is to get a religious sister through the character of Sister Mary Andy and the convent and religious life right into the classroom in Catholic schools, right into the home in Catholic homes, so that even though we can't get into every parish and every Catholic school as much as we'd like to, this series could, right. And children can be exposed to the beauty and the joy and just the fact that it still exists, just the reality that there is still such a thing as religious life. Right. So it is connected to discernment.
Right, absolutely. So many of us were lucky back in the 50s and the 60s that we went to schools that were populated, let alone grammar schools, let alone high schools, with sisters. So that exposure, and certainly EWTN has tried to maintain that, obviously, because of being founded ourselves by Mother Angelica and our wonderful sisters. So the idea of doing it as a kid's book, whose idea was that?
Well, it was an idea that had been brewing in my mind since I was the vocation director. And of course, I'm not in that role anymore, but I'm always, part of my heart and my mind and my prayer is always directed towards helping women discern. But I always thought, and Father Andrew also used to always say this, that we have to start so much earlier. It's not just the young adult woman who is already asking the question of discernment, but the child who has never been exposed to religious life. How can you discern something that you don't know, that you've never seen, that you don't even know is an option for your life? So that's why we wanted to start younger, not so much with discernment. We don't want to sit down a group of 7-year-olds and guide them through a discernment process, right. But just show them. It's just like opening the door on the convent and saying, look at this, look at this reality.
Right.
The discernment will come later.
And at least having that in the back of their mind is something that might be an option down the road as they progress through their own education. Now, you talk about the fact that there are different themes throughout the book. It's not a simple book in that way. Explain how you did that.
Okay, yes. So what you find when you open the first book, The Unsolvable Problem, is you're introduced to a sister, Sister Mary Andy, and note that she's named after Father Andrew. Actually, that Andy is for him.
Okay.
And you're introduced to the convent, and you see a convent, a house for sisters. You see that sisters live with the Blessed Sacrament, and you see all the things that are maybe the same about maybe an ordinary family life, but also the things that are different and unique to consecrated life. So the children are being exposed to that. But you're seeing Sister Mary Andy and the sisters go to the chapel, gather for prayer, have adoration. You see them facing an unsolvable problem, a difficulty, and then how they go to Jesus when they have a problem, and then how the Lord, answers their prayers. So children are learning how to deal with difficulties and small problems in their own life, how to offer their own heartfelt prayers to Jesus. So it has layers of themes.
Right. If we can, what I'd like to do is maybe take a look at, there was a short video that was put together that kind of gives a little bit of a sense of what the book is about and what it looks like. And that'll help us as we go along in our conversation. So if we can take a look at that right now, that'd be great. Okay, so that was lively, and it gives, I think, people a sense of the book. One of the things that drew me to the book was that you mentioned Yankee Stadium, of course, and as a diehard Yankee fan stuck in Alabama, it's good to see. It's a little like home, but it's interesting because you wanted to show the inside, and it, not only the idea of the convent, but what you got across from that was the joy that the sisters have in their lives, which we see in young sisters like your order, we see with the Nashville Dominicans or Mother Assumpta's Dominicans, or with the Sisters of Life. And it's such a countercultural lifestyle. People, I don't think, understand, how could they be so happy?
Exactly, exactly. And even I can recall as a young adult considering religious life myself, I had those same myths, the myth that religious life is surely sort of dark and maybe a little oppressive and very, very serious and staunch. And those are myths. And it took me visiting to see, wow, this is a life of light and joy and really a deep fulfillment. And so we want to get that across, that even to the children, the joy of entering into the family life of the sisters, which also comes through their prayer, their relationships with one another, but also the service that they do. And so you see glimpses of that in the book as well, so that children can learn when you give to others, as St. John Paul II spoke about the law of the gift, that when you give yourself away, you're fulfilled by that. So it's little ways to train children in the faith, even through the religious sisters of the book, which is very classic, that religious sisters would be involved in the formation and education of children, but even through a creative method of a story.
Right, that self-donation idea that you referenced there. And it's also Eucharistic, and in this part it says, if sometimes I say God and sometimes I say Jesus, it's not because I got sleepy while writing this. No, it's because the host is Jesus and Jesus is God.
That's my favorite line of the book, Doug. That is my favorite line, because our life is so Eucharistic, and of course our church is so Eucharistic. It's the Source and Summit. But do our children, we all see the polls coming out and the efforts of the bishops to re-evangelize the faithful, but to get that simple message across that the host is Jesus and Jesus is God, and he's there for you. So whatever ways we can help evangelize our children to know the basics of the faith, and this book is a way to do that.
Right. So are you the model for the one who's doing the handstands and the cartwheels, or
I shall not reveal my secret.
Okay. I was wondering if that was particularly you. And the big problem I thought was nice about this book was that in some ways it was USA centered and patriotic in the connection to July 4th, which in many cases people have lost sight of.
Exactly, and that was obviously very intentional as well. That patriotism is a virtue, and it's a virtue that's being lost. And to make maybe a small effort, but an effort to rekindle that in our children, that this is a great country. We have a great faith, we have a great country, and we've been given so much. And so that theme of patriotism is also one of those many layered themes. So you see the sisters singing all the patriotic hymns and unfurling the American flag and getting ready for the 4th of July. So I think that's also important for children to see that and have that rekindled in them.
Right, and religious freedom and the underpinning of that, and why that's so important.
Exactly.
And you also make the point that you would talk about the chapel, but that the sisters spend a lot of time out and about in the city, and they spend time out doing good deeds, and you mentioned that the sisters are not teachers in that way. Rather, they're like mothers not mothers to children or babies, but mothers to the poor.
Yes, in the concept of this book, I had to search my mind at the beginning stages. How would we portray the religious life? Because of course we don't only want to expose children to the CFR Sisters community and charism. We want to expose children to the religious life, consecrated life overall in the Catholic Church, and that possibility and all of its many varied possibilities. But yet, as you know, to write, you have to be authentic to yourself and write about what you know. So I knew right away, it's got to be us. But yet we want to open that out so that it's revealing all of religious life. So we do focus on our charism of that hands-on work with the poor and evangelization. But through that, we're introducing the children to the beauty of religious life in all of its other aspects as well. And on that page, you see all the different habits and the different types of sisters. So we're trying to open that out into a broader view for the kids.
Was it also intentional, the idea of showing how your ability to work among the poor, to do these good things, comes because of your Eucharistic, focus, because of your prayer life, because of the spiritual life? You can go and do these things.
Absolutely. And I hope that, and if that connection isn't made in the first book, I think it absolutely will be made in the second book, that kind of that ebb and flow, that we move from the chapel and prayer out to Jesus in the chapel, to Jesus in the poor, Jesus in the poor, back to Jesus in the chapel. And I think that becomes more and more clear. And that's the beauty of a series, because you can build on the themes and they can continue to grow. Right.
Now, you like hamburgers, but you've got a problem with bagels or something?
Yeah. I love the New York bagel. There's nothing like it. You can't get anything like it anywhere. But you can't, when you're on a burger, you need a bun,
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So now you also talk about the fact that in the end, we talk about exactly how the mystery is solved and everything. But why did you define it as an unsolvable mystery when it seems like it's reasonably solvable?
Sure. Well, it's kind of catchy, isn't it? There's a little bit of a hook there, the unsolvable problem. And what we're also sort of revealing is the aspect of our life, that the living by divine providence. So maybe for someone else, the fact that you don't have 100 hamburger buns on hand for your 4th of July party for the poor wouldn't be an unsolvable problem. But when it's July 3rd and you're a religious sister who lives by divine providence, it does have kind of an ominous, and it's a true story as well. So, but we live by divine providence, meaning that we do rely on the Lord. There's no income for the work that we do other than what God provides as He provides it, which is usually through good people and sometimes even through miraculous ways. But in this case, it shows the mix of those two things: the sister going to prayer, and the prayer being almost immediately answered through the goodness of people.
Right, and that reliance on divine providence keeps you connected to the Lord. I know with Mother Angelica, that was always important to her, to not forget that at the end of the day, the Lord will provide. And she'd always say, I'd go forward with one foot in the air and a queasy feeling in my stomach. I knew ultimately it would work out, but I wasn't clear on how the Lord would make it actually happen. So this is an actual event that occurred, and again, where people show up seemingly out of nowhere to solve the problem effectively.
Exactly. It's that we've never seen before and haven't seen since. And it's just the way our life works day in and day out. Right. And Mother Angelica was she was an icon of divine providence and just a pillar of faith. And so she absolutely lived this way to such an extraordinary degree. What an inspiration. But our life is like that as well. And I understand that queasy feeling, that taking a step out in faith and knowing that the degree that that we can place our trust in God is the degree that we get to see His providence. And there's a ratio there between those two things: the trust in His, our poverty, and trust in His providence, and getting to see that.
Now that's talking about the unsolvable problem. Okay, little convent in the big city. Now that's the first book. Let's just talk about the artwork. Who did the artwork for you?
Oh, the artwork, I think is spectacular. And my good friend, my longtime friend, Michael Corsini, who's a full-time artist and a Catholic family man who's dedicated his talents to the service of the church. He he did the art, and what's so spectacular about it is it's not these are hand painted images for every page. So he is, taking the investment of all of his gifts and talents and pouring it out to create, the sisters and the convent and the poor and the people and the stories. So there's something very, very beautiful about his hand painted work to flesh out the story. So I'm really grateful to him, and I think he adds that element of beauty to the whole thing.
Right. Now, you didn't do this in rhyme. A lot of kids' books these days, you get kind of the rhyming scheme. Had you thought about that at one time, or was that just not your forte?
Well, it's funny you asked. I did think about that. When I never ventured into children's books before this venture, and so you think about all those things, like what type of art, what style, what will be a lyrical style, and I'm attracted to that style, but it just didn't. This project didn't lend itself because I think of the layers of depth we wanted to get across in terms of the catechesis as well. But since it's a series, the future could hold anything.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about the second book. The Light in You. So what is Sister Mary Andy up to this time?
Okay, well, this is a wonderful Christmas story, actually. And like the first one, it's based on a true story. So this is a real event that happened in the lives of the sisters, and it's related to home visiting. One of our mini apostolates is visiting our neighbors. We always live in neighborhoods noted for poverty, so that we can live among and serve the poor, not just to go in and serve the poor, but to live among and serve the poor. So Sister Mary Andy is visiting a neighbor who is blind. And not only is he physically blind, but he's also, deeply upset, bordering on depression. And so she and the sisters go in to minister to him. And and it unfolds, and the theme of light, of bringing him from darkness to light, really is the theme that threads through the story, ending on Christmas Eve with the midnight mass. So I won't give away more than that, but it's a beautiful story, a true story, a heartwarming story, and it will be out by Christmas.
And that's Antonio, that's the character that you're talking about, right?
Correct.
Now
Antonio and his dog Star are featured in the next book.
Dog Star, that works both ways. Now you talk about the idea that the light in you helps show how religious sisters are Christ bearers, bringing the light and joy of Jesus to human souls. How so? How is that the case? How are you Christ bearers?
Yes, as you were pointing out before, our life is a Eucharistic life. We start with Mass every morning. We end with Eucharistic adoration at the end of the day. We pray 5 times throughout the day. So we're living a very contemplative life for active sisters. It's a mixed life. And so our life is this ebb and flow between drawing our strength and our joy and just the love of God through prayer, and then going out to those most in need and shining that light for them. So, and that's very practical. It's shoes for the homeless. It's a hot cup of coffee, for someone on the sidewalk. It's a visit to a home. But all of that is the love of God. I'm not just bringing my love and my concern and my care, but it's God's love. And we seek to be really the maternal face of the church to the poor. And so this is not something we do by our own strength, of course. We wouldn't even want to, but really with the love of the church and the love of God, the love of Jesus himself.
Now, this is a book for kids, but you talk about dealing with negative emotions. Aren't we supposed to keep everything upbeat these days?
Well, that's kind of hard to do in the world we live in, and so, children more and more, are getting in touch with and a lot of actually curriculums, more secular curriculums, are dealing with emotions. So I think the church needs to also be able to show up on that front and help children deal with their emotions, but not just with their own power, but with the power of God. And so you see Sister Mary Andy, who visits this man, and she just simply listens to him. She accepts him. She doesn't try to. She just listens. She just listens in a very simple way. And so it shows children that and you can see it unfold as there's a little catechetical moment where children are invited to think about who do they talk to, when they're feeling sad or mad or some of those negative emotions? Who do they speak with? So something just as simple as that, without psychologizing the children or trying to offer some pop psychology to them, but just to be able to bring it to the light, that very Catholic principle, that Ignatian principle of whatever's going on inside is better dealt with in the light and in the light of Christ. And so that theme, again, that light theme, that Christ theme throughout.
And that idea that if you are living in those situations, that there is an opportunity to turn to the Lord.
Exactly. And he ultimately is the greatest listener, the greatest light, and the greatest, the savior from the things that are burdening us. So hopefully that comes through clearly.
And you use the same artist, right? Michael Corsini did
yes.
these as well, right?
Absolutely. And these, he just really truly illuminates, he really grasps the concept. So we were able to talk together about the themes, and he immediately then is able to put his own artistic flair and vision to it. Right. And so he really saw light as a character. So when I'm explaining this theme of the light coming through, he's like, the light will be a character of its own. And he really portrays that in the book.
So how much art direction did you do? I mean, did you have versions that were done that you thought didn't quite capture it, or did you leave that up to him after your initial discussion?
It's funny. We work very well together. So I'll give a vision for how I see it unfolding, how I see the story unfolding, even artistically, what images could be on each page, but trying to leave him plenty of room for his own creative inspiration. And then there's a working together, maybe a little more of this or a little less of that. But in this second book, I have to say, he captured it so immediately that there's been very little need for any further direction. He just has a vision as well. So we work well together, and it's been great teamwork.
So how many books will there be in this series? Do you have another one in mind? Do you have several, or?
Oh, there's several in mind, but only the Holy Spirit knows how this will unfold and when the next one will be. But we envision, a long-running series to be able to, again, fill the world of Catholic children with something positive, and with specifically that window into the religious life. This is an aspect of Catholic life that is still relevant and still exists, even if they've never seen a sister in their community or in their parish. And we just feel that's so important, that every Catholic child knows that this is still a reality, because there are children growing up thinking that it's not. And there's a sister in my own convent who's now in final vows. But when she first visited, I was the vocation director, and she told me this story of praying more, spending more time with the Blessed Sacrament, growing in her faith, growing in prayer, and feeling a call to something special, something different. And she was genuinely perplexed, because she said, how could God be calling me to something that doesn't exist anymore?
I see. And I was going to ask you that with that point, in you being a vocation director, you being with the sisters for 25 years or more at this point in time, how is it different today in the young women that come forward who think they might have a vocation? Has it changed?
It has changed, Doug. Yeah, it really has changed over these 25 years. And this case of the sister I'm mentioning was one thing. I mean, I was stunned that she went to all Catholic schools right through college, her university, and didn't know that religious life was still a thriving reality. Maybe smaller, maybe diminished in some places and cases, but still there. So that's the first hurdle, to just reveal that this is still happening and still thriving and still relevant. But then secondly, yes, once women even are aware of that, because the culture is growing more and more toxic, to be really honest with it, we don't even need to enumerate the many things that are corrupting our children, our families, our culture, that it's harder for women to enter, to go from the chaos of the world as it is right now into the purity of the convent. It's like a chasmic leap, And so the preparation is much greater now than it ever was. People often need to have time for healing and even counseling, and just more preparation is needed to enter into this than before. But it's still possible. It's still happening. Many women are still being called, but just the trajectory of going from the world into the convent is just different than it was.
Than it used to be. And it's interesting also in relation to that, what about parents? You know, it seems like, you know, a lot of families, there are fewer kids. Sometimes there seems a reluctance on that. Some of the scandals make maybe parents a little more worried about what their child, their daughter might be choosing.
Oh, absolutely. That is so true. It's a rare thing today to have parents that are enthusiastic. It's a very rare thing. In fact, I'm surprised if there happens to be a parent that thinks this is a wonderful idea
Right.
and they support their child. Most parents are hesitant, and or worse, or
Right.
worse. So there is a real job to win over parents. And actually, this book is helping.
Right.
You know, our candidates, even, it was just coming out, and they were just in the application process, and they gave it to their parents, and we had a number of family members say, you know, this children's book kind of helped me get a glimpse, and I feel a little differently
Right.
about it. So I was tickled by that it wasn't parents of religious sisters were not the intended audience,
Right.
but it's helping them as well. So we thank God for that.
Absolutely. Well, good luck in your future endeavors. Make sure you stop by when new books come out. Mother Claire Mathias, CFR. Her new series, The Little Convent in the Big City. Her first book is The Unsolvable Problem. The second one is The Light in You. Both available through our EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com, all things Catholic. Great book for Christmas. Check it out. And we thank you so much, Mother Claire, for joining us here on Bookmark.
Thank you, Doug. Really appreciate it. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
You too.